Okay. Um, Super interesting news coming through today, as I'm sure lots of people know. Collectors Universe, owned by Nat Turner and Associates, uh, acquired SGC, and people lost their minds. So I feel like there were a lot of reactions, a lot of overreactions, especially on Facebook. I'm not on Twitter really, but I do sometimes follow what people say on Twitter, especially, and forums like Net54 and Blowout. People have made a lot of YouTube videos. I think the important distinction, and I want to have this be interactive, is that PSA did not buy SGC. PSA is a company, Professional Sports Authenticators is a company that's owned by Collectors Universe, and one of many companies that's owned by Collectors Universe. And so to say that PSA bought SGC is just actually false. But I have my own thoughts based upon what's been put out in the press releases. Nat also gave an interview to another hobby website that I can pull up and reference. But I don't think that this is bad news. I think it's very interesting. I've been submitting cards to SGC since 2008, so long time. I'm customer number 187 with SGC. And I've kind of seen the evolution of the company, really small in New Jersey, moves to Florida, becomes larger, deals with the pandemic stuff, falls behind, hires a lot, and now this. And so, I really want to also hear from viewers, what your perception of the news is, what your ideas of a future with SGC look like. I'm not represented by SGC. I'm just here to talk and share ideas and listen to people and share my own thoughts. So I see 4 people are watching, but please feel free to post a comment. I want to see if it actually can be a thing. In any case. So yeah, I think one of the aspects that people are not talking a lot about is technology improvements. And this could be a reason. Hey, Jason, thank you for watching and tuning in. I really appreciate it. One of the things that SGC has been critiqued on a lot is the lack of technology just within the entire company. They hired a CTO. I love this comment. So I don't want to derail, but I will come back to this. So one of the critiques that SGC has received over the course of time is that just the lack of technology in the holder, web presence, an app, label, just overall the registry, pop report. And I think this is a huge opportunity to inject a lot of technology into SGC where it's needed. SGC right now doesn't have a registry. Actually, in that interview that I was referencing earlier by Hobby, you know what? I'll just pull it up in a little bit. I'll get on my phone while I'm talking here. Hobby News Daily. It's not a publication that I'm familiar at all with, but apparently they were able to speak to Nat today. and get some quotes. Nat said that the possibility for an SGC registry is still possible, but he does not see in the future a combined registry or a combined pop report between the two companies. I think it's good that they will act still as their own separate entities under collectors. But right now, I mean, SGC hasn't had a registry since like 2017. And I think it's interesting to think about, like, well, why is that? Like, why haven't they hired another company to do this? Why haven't they done it internally themselves? And we may have the answer today, being that, maybe 18 to 24 months ago, they saw this kind of coming and they didn't want to invest all of that money into getting this done and all that time to get this done. Whereas Collectors has the resources to be able to help with that kind of stuff, and can do it more efficiently and just then better. So I think the registry is a big deal to people. And sorry, you can see Rookie's got his zoomies going on right now. So if you see a cat flash in the background. So this is a good comment here. I feel like injecting that technology may come at a cost, and that cost might be a decrease of what they're good at, like customer service and speed. That's interesting. I think that just based upon the press release and what Nat has said, that like he and like the investor group at Collectors identified that they like about SGC are those two things, like cost effectiveness, speed, like turnaround times, and expertise. And so I think like those three pillars are so integral to SGC's success that they're not going to, like, Collectors is a gigantic company. Like PSA employs like 1,600 people. SGC is probably like 50. And so I'm not to say that like PSA and SGC will like intermingle employees, but just like being under the Collectors umbrella and having access to the resources that Collectors does would bode well. The other part is the holder itself. Like, there's not much technology in the SGC holder as compared to that of like the PSA holder or even the BGS holder. Like BGS holder doesn't have a ton of technology, but I think people like the way that the holder like presents and feels, and it's been like a classic look for BGS for a long time, and Collectors have come to become used to it. But SGC has had so many label and holder changes over the years that, and none are actually like doing anything to increase like the security of the card in the holder. Like, not to say that this is an issue, but people who can like crack open holders and then stick another card in and appear to present it to look like it's been resealed, can't really do that right like anymore with like the current generation PSA holder or even the Beckett holder. But I feel like with SGC, it's literally just two pieces of plastic, and they're not like welded together with anything that's like super high tech. So I think that's another opportunity that might be interesting. Here's another comment here. Mike mentioned that his purchase may be to build out Collectors' portfolio in order to go public. I have heard this rumor. I think it's interesting. And this is another part of like my thought process, is that like within the last like year and a half, a lot of these like IPs, intellectual properties, have been like scooped up by Collectors and by fanatics. And so this may just be like the next domino to fall on that kind of time. Do I think that Collectors is going to go public again? Because I mean, they were just bought and then turned private. Like this was a publicly traded company. They had a ticker. And then when Nat and that investor group purchased Collectors, the company was then turned private. I don't know all of the specifics about that deal, so I'm not going to like really speak to it. So, you know, maybe they were trying to buy SGC before, Fanatics tried to buy SGC, or something like that. Let's see. PSA has a current monopoly on set registries. There's a case that you can make that Collectors per never get a registry. I mean, that's interesting. I don't know if I ever thought about that. I don't know if I ever thought about it like that. I also had the thought that, like, people will say that, like, competition is good in this space. It forces companies to continue to innovate, continue to deliver a better product or the best product. The collector, whoever's submitting cards, get graded. And this move may not be as much about maintaining competition. It may be to, sorry, I'm trying to like read comments and also think about what I'm saying. That's my ADHD kicking in. It may be to, instead of maintain competition, it is to like maintain preference. So like people will still have a choice where to send a card or where to not send a card, or in order to get graded. So I think that also is something interesting to talk about. Mike, my concern is SGC Homer's long-term value of the cards in the holder. I'm not a flipper or dealer, but my investment in grading cards not to collapse. Help me not feel panicked. I mean, I really don't think that. I think to feel panicked may be a little premature. We don't really know like what will happen. I don't think anything will happen to the current like cards and SGC holders. It's not like the company's going out of business like it was with like Gem Pro or GAI, where those companies like folded and then the cards in those holders intrinsically lost value because the reputation and the credibility of the company that assessed that card dropped. I think if anything, the credibility and the reputation of SGC is either maintaining or it's increasing. And I'm not saying, and again, I'm not employed by SGC. I'm not employed by Collectors. I'm not employed by PSA. This is just my opinions. But I think this is a special case because, sorry, I'm like getting a lot of comments here as I'm trying to like talk Mike off the ledge here. Don't be on the ledge. The ledge is not like a fun place to be. And I think like our cards are going to be okay. I don't think anything will happen to the like current card and a current SGC holder. I think though people are kind of trying to wait and see within the market, like how the market responds to this news. So if you see SGC cards that are selling for a bargain, buy them, because I think it's an interesting opportunity to do so. I know I'm going to the Philly show. If people have SGC cards that are undervalued, I'm going to be buying them. I heard Fanatics and actually CSG were in the mix to buy. Yeah, I hadn't heard that. If you can let me know like where you heard that, Jason, I would love to hear. Max, really glad that you were able to join in. You the man. Here's John. Max has 700 cards and SGC holders. That's a ton, considering that 520 are your T206 set, so it's a lot. Dan, welcome. If you want to sell all your SGC cards, and you're talking about a markdown from retail, let me know, because I'd be a buyer. Let me just take a sip of water here. Scott feels the value of SGC cards has a higher ceiling now. PSA further legitimizes SGC and allows a larger body of PSA only customers to feel more comfortable adding SGC cards. That's definitely an interesting idea. I'm wondering, Scott, being a PSA registry guy, are you now more enticed or interested in buying SGC cards, or does your attitude like toward SGC cards kind of change or stay the same? Mike at Junkrat's Hero Stores with others in the mix. Okay. I know you were joking, Dan. It's all tongue in cheek here. And I hope I see you at the Philly show. Hopefully we keep what we like about SGC and eventually get a better website and app options. Yeah, I agree. And I think that this like comes back to what I was saying earlier is the opportunity to like really bolster technology front of SGC. Where it's something that like maybe for like the entire company's history, like SGC has kind of like always been behind in technology. Yeah, I think it's a super interesting opportunity, and I guess I'll leave it at that for now. Card Soup has never been in talks by SGC. That's an unsubstantiated rumor. I need to watch that video, collector to collector. Scott, being a PSA guy, says yes. I always liked SGC as well, but the fact that they had 0 registries is a non-starter for me personally. Yeah, I think the registry is a big selling point for people, and I think it's bigger than like people kind of realize. Like, I'll give you an example. I don't send cards to PSA a lot, even now. Right now, what I'm sending them is like high grade commons, and like anything modern that I get. Like I have some Etro rookie cards at PSA now. Sorry, my glasses are like a little crooked. I have some modern cards at PSA right now. But to Scott's point, I can't send high grade commons to SGC because there's no registry for people to build an SGC set of like a 1970 top set. There's no incentive for someone to build that set in SGC holders because there's no registry. The registry creates competition. The registry creates organization and focus and helps with checklisting. So yeah, I mean, those are the kinds of cards I'm spinning to PSA, and I don't think I'm alone with that. Everything else that I buy that I think is worthy to be graded goes to SGC. So, let me actually pull up this article. So I'm going to link it. I'm going to link the article here in the chat, if the chat allows me to do so. Okay, so the most interesting part about this. Okay. I can clarify some information about the collected acquisition SGC. First and most clearly expressed is that SGC will operate separately from PSA for the foreseeable future. Turner made it clear that many industries operate with multiple brands in the same category, and this is no different. He mentioned hotels, cars, and other industries. So consider like cars, right? Like Toyota and Lexus are like manufactured by the same company, right? Like they're the same, but Lexus is a like luxury version of Toyota, but there's not like much difference between like a Toyota that's fully upgraded with all possible upgrades from like the lowest end Lexus. Here it says, no luck in the near future for those who want a universal registry. That is not at the forefront at this time. However, it appears an SGC registry and possible universal checklist could be available sooner. No date given. Most interesting to me was the talks between companies started over how to stop counterfeit cards and a mutual interest in solving that problem. According to Turner, it became clear that there were larger ways in which it would benefit both companies to work together. Technology and counterfeit protection remained a shared priority. So it's interesting. I really like what I'm hearing from Nat. Here's Jason. I'm not being the old man, get off my long eye, but all this grading craziness got me considered collecting ungraded. Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you with that at all. Everyone, I mean, there's a space in the hobby for everybody, and that's what makes this hobby so great, is that you can collect however you want to. And if you are not enthusiastic about a certain way to collect, there are many other ways to collect. If you feel like you're being priced out, then there is a pivot that people can make. Hello, Orlando. In order to like create more happiness or create more satisfaction within your own collection. Here's John. I was planning to submit my next SGC order today, and this news is not stopping me. Yeah, I have 6 cards ready to go. I'm going to bring them to the Philly show and hopefully pick up some more stuff, and they'll be included in my next order. Yeah. Yeah. Likewise, Dan, not me as much, but I have a friend who is annoyed that they don't have a registry. Almost to the point to cross over his existing SGC collection, a selection of cards in his collection, to PSA in order to add them to the registry. That's how important the registry is to him, which I think is incredible. But people care about that stuff. It's important. My hope is that we get one more change to the SGC holder, the fact that we don't have a scannable barcode or QR code. So the interesting part is that if you go to the older generation SGC holders, there actually is a barcode on it, but it's useless. It's not scannable. And if you scan it, nothing happens. It was like a design feature to almost like fill space. At least I don't know of any functionality that barcode had. So, I mean, it would be great though, like in order to like add cards to your app, or any other functionality. I think the holder or label situation, I think holder security is a great opportunity for SGC, and I think the label also. PSA is going to share security technology. Yeah, I think it makes total sense. They should make the SGC holders fit nestle with PSA holders. Oh, you mean how they kind of lock? I mean, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think there's holder design does have value too. Like people love the way that the CSG or CGC holder feels and looks. And I think a lot of people put a lot of value and weight into how the holder presents, feels, the weight of it. Yeah, Henry, this is a great point. I think a pop report is best used as a guide and not a Bible. It is not a perfect measure of data, and to use it as such like a defining piece of a way to sell a card or buy a card or any decision used about that data can be just a little misleading. Like just because something has a low pop doesn't mean that it's a rare card. It may just mean that people don't care about submitting it to get graded. This is an interesting thing too. Will fees go up? I think fees would have gone up if SGC were going to cease to exist, because that would indicate that there will be less competition in this space. But I think because SGC is not, then they will be able to maintain their current price point. I think it's also like what Peter said in his video, that that's not changing. Also, Collectors has like just a shit ton of money, so I don't think they need like another $4 from everybody per card to pay for that. It's a fun thought though. PSA holder size would not let them tuxedo cards like 53 Bowman color. Right, because it doesn't have like, well, it has like the frosted. Actually, like, what do you mean by that, John? The PSA holder size will not let them tuxedo cards like 53 Bowman color. So like anything larger than the standard 2.5 by 3.5 is what you're talking about. But what do you mean by that? I'm curious. This has been great. I love this discussion. This is really fun. If anyone wants to like jump in, I can share the StreamYard link. All right, we have a response here. Larger cards will not have enough room to get that black that makes it pop. You know, I don't have any like of the larger PSA cards with me right now. I'm trying to think in my collection or inventory if I do, and I don't think I do. But yeah, it takes up more space within the holder. And so, yeah, that would just leave less room. Oh, you can't. I just copied the URL, but another time. I'm sure there'll be more news to discuss about this. So I'm happy to also keep doing this. I think it's really fun. Who's not allowing you to be live? So all this to say, the people who are ready to jump off the bridge, the sky is falling, pigs are flying, it's coming to an end, holding up their hands in disbelief. I think a lot of that can be tempered, because I think the reality is that probably not that much is going to change. We'll certainly like take time, and with any like SGC or Collectors or PSA update, we will continue to learn more about like really what this means. My initial reaction is actually funny. I went to sleep earlier last night than I usually do, but if I hadn't, I would have. Oh, you're welcome, Jason. Absolutely. Enjoy. If I had not gone to sleep, I would have been up all night, and that would have not been good for anybody. And so I'm thankful that I went to sleep when I did, because I woke up to the news. I did have a little bit of shock. I may have like said like a holy shit or a wow or a whatever. But I really tried to understand like why this is happening. Like why? I don't follow a lot of like the trendy channels. And so I've missed a lot of this. So it doesn't, like, I haven't seen it. But I'm sure a lot of like the like really trendy ones, the channels that just like kind of like regurgitate like the same like news stories published by like the same like 2 or 3 publications. Yeah, but I don't subscribe to them, so I miss that stuff. Oh, Disco Demolition Night. I mean, you're welcome to participate. I think actually Caesar had a really funny video. He had like an SGC card of like Juan DeFranco walking down like it was like a mimicking like a jail cell like lineup. And yes, it's a great dollop episode. And in Caesar's way of doing it, he did a really funny job. So yeah, anyone who's come in that hasn't commented, please, I want this to be a interactive thing. If you have thoughts, opinions, I mean, everyone right now has an opinion, not just me or even the people in this chat or anyone who hasn't already shared it on the internet. Dan startled his wife when he read the news. I just explained I heard the company with red holders just bought the company with black holders, and she shrugged. Yeah, I mean, it's great that you're participating in the hobby with her. I mean, it is big news. It's big news. It's funny. I think I remember like saying to someone, like, oh, someone it would buy SGC. And I said, no, I'll believe it when I see it. I don't know if I ever like believed the SGC would like kind of sell out. I shouldn't say sell out. I don't love that term. But I don't know if I ever believed that it would actually happen. I just want a universal registry, have PSA cards in registry, but duplicate in SGC higher grade. Yeah, Orlando, I don't think universal registry is going to come just according to like what I read earlier from this, what is it? Hobby News Daily. I didn't even know his website existed. So, Ed, are you actually going to stop by and see me at the Philly show, or are you going to diss me like you always do and walk by without saying hello? I think everything's going to be okay. I mean, Orlando, you probably would have like no issue doing that. I think there's always a market for stuff like that, and keep the card that you care about most. I'm curious if this is a troll or actually a real comment. So I'd like to have you clarify if you're open to that. I hope to see you. I'll be there every day. I know that you're usually a Saturday guy and it's usually busy, but I want to see you. I want to give you a fist bump, shake your hand, see what you pick up. But I think there's also a possibility that this is going to happen again. Call me a fashion, but I don't believe for universal registries after marriage. Saturday only for Dan. Well, I'll be in the same spot, Dan. Please come say hello. Mr. Michael. Well, the other alternative is to sell the set, like sell a graded set. And I think there is, because it has a number one spot on the registry, it has a lot of clout. And I think like an auction format, that's very attractive to people. If they can just buy an entire set, if they have upgrades within their own collection or within another set to then put in your set and upgrade it, that's, I think, very attractive to people. And so I don't know what site you're talking about, or referring to. But I think if you were to sell it, I think in my opinion, the smart thing to do is to contact an auction house, let them know that you have a number one set in the registry, and they'll market it as such. My guy, going to Strongsville with this, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait. Sammy early in the morning broke the news on YouTube. Yeah, but we've just been talking about SGC for the last 35 minutes. It's fun news to talk about. Everyone has their opinions and their thoughts and their ideas. I would like to hear, maybe aside from the registry, where is the area that you think SGC could improve most, aside from just getting a registry? And while I do that, I'm just going, let's see. Oh, okay. Corporate America literally ate up the home in less than 4 years ago. Don't disagree. Interacting with PSA at 22 National is so much better experience than when I talked to a PSA in Lake City after the pandemic. I want to have you expand on that more. Like, what specifically was your experience? You have to, for people who don't understand this one, head to his post on his YouTube channel. I mean, I want to hear why, though, Ed. I want to hear why. I want to hear why it sucks. Because I'm interested to hear. The pandemic was the worst thing to happen in the hobby. I mean, I don't know if it was worse than like it kind of collapsing in the mid-90s. I think what it did is brought a lot of people in and interested in people talking about it. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think like the temporary entrants in the hobby are kind of gone now. It took them like a year or 18 months to kind of like get burned enough. And then, I mean, you see it with like card show traffic, like the same people that were at shows like 2 years ago are not at shows anymore. But I want to hear more about that. They need to work on their communication. My last sub, I had an issue where they wouldn't hold her a card, and if I didn't go through Eric, I would not have that card in the holder. I mean, that's a good point. They are hard to get a hold of. They don't have a phone number. Their customer service is really just email. So that I think they could improve upon. A valid take, Henry. Valid take. Stronger, less crackable slab security, bulk sub deals registry. You can get bulk sub deals in. There's a Facebook group and a website, bocacardsubs.com, not affiliated. But I think they give you like $1 discount per card. So it's like $14 a card. Brent has greatly improved. He used to give like really cookie cutter responses to his queries. And now it's an actual person responding and not just a robot. Max is also really strong. So if you're collecting after nines, there's something wrong with you. What's up, Blue Rock? I think Dan's right about the SGC plastic. Well, here's another interesting part. maybe this is like not something that like people are super concerned with right now, but like in our hobby, there's a ton of waste. And I don't want this to get like political, but there's so much plastic production. There's so much like wrappers and foil and garbage that's created. That's like a byproduct of just creating cards and creating holders. So maybe that's something that they can try to address too. I would like to hear why also, Dan. John P. Just note that I still plan to send vintage SGC this weekend, but still the news. Yes. Yeah, Eric is great. Haven't had any issues and haven't heard any issues with the way that he runs that business. Yeah. No issues. I'm printing the invoice by the Odor right now. There you go. See? The news has not dissuaded some. But I think if I had come on maybe at like 11 o'clock this morning, maybe like the tone of even like the responses in the chat or even like my tone would be different. I think there'd be like more unknown. I think people think that like that PSA will absorb SGC. In 5 to 10 years, people don't really know what that will look like. Personally, I don't see that happening. I think SGC has like a brand and a loyal following that if PSA or if SGC were to be absorbed, it would cause like a lot of disruption and like animosity between like the end user collectors and also like PSA and the holding company. Okay. Like to do my own subs, organize them the way to sub them, do the wiping, cleaning, etc. Walk the package, USPS, follow the status entirely on my own. Yeah, I mean, you can also still do that with the bulk subber. Like they provide the update, like when it hits post grading, you can still like do the wiping or whatever you do to prep a card to get graded before sending that, or you can also have them do it for you. Need to Photoshop PSA crank around a bird like the soda holders. Help me. There's a meme. There's an internet reference here that I'm missing. Well, yeah. See, I don't have that patience. Like I had an order pop today, and as soon as I got that email, I went right to my SGC account and checked my grades. I can't wait another 3 to 4 days for the cards to come in the mail for me to do a large reveal. Competition is essential now with collectors owning basically 90% of the market. There's nothing we can do. Well, even before this acquisition, Ed, what could we do? We can just give business to SGC. But are you meaning that like if you gave business to SGC, then you're actively not giving business to collectors or PSA, and that's what you're saying? Oh, absolutely, Dan. I will see you in a week, just about. The more I think about it, the more I think this deal dooms an SGC registry. Why would collectors let SGC create a registry to compete with PSA? But they're owned by the same company. So actually, they should encourage, in my opinion, they should encourage more innovation from SGC because it'll drive more business. And as SGC does better, then collectors will do better. To think SGC won't make changes is probably naive. Collectors isn't altruistic. They are basically a group of venture capitalists. I'll be shocked if Pete is still at the company in 2 years. Okay. Oh, you and Joe Orlando, man. I would love to watch an interview that you have with Joe Orlando. You have to be sure to mention his eyebrows, though, and that should be your first question, and also your last. Yeah, I mean, I don't even think like any staffing is changing in SGC. I think there's, like, you send a card to Florida, it's not going to come back from California. And Max, at times, like, you've been critical of Peter, but I think maybe your tune has changed. I'd imagine Collectors understands how a lot of collectors favor SGC for vintage. I don't think SGC will be doomed in terms of their day-to-day ops. Yeah, I totally agree. I don't think so at all. I'm also wondering, I mean, we're never going to know because Collectors is a private company, but I wonder, like, how much money it took to acquire SGC. I think that's a interesting idea or interesting thought. I don't have no idea how to value a company like that, or even value any company. But it's interesting to toy around with and think about. You were told between $100 and $125 million. Where'd you hear that from? How many of us think we can grade cards better than these companies? Well, I mean, probably a lot, to be honest. I hear a lot like, this is the best 3 you'll ever see, or you're not going to see a 4 that looks better than this one, or this card's undergraded. I'm guilty of that too, because I always think that, the cards that I submit, I try to give them, nice looking stuff, stuff that I think is more exceptional. If SGC doubles for a raid start to its membership, meanwhile PSA nightmare send cards, so we all know how much of a pain that is. Who does send cards get graded? Why would SGC double their rate though? And why would they do a membership? It's not in their business model. Okay, you can text me if you want. I was just curious. Yeah, Phil does submit cards to HGA, and he gets favorable results. I think Ed by the get graded, probably through a JT group sub, if I had to guess. I think though they are only PSA group subbers. I don't think that they do SGC anymore. We had a lot of people in this chat for a bit. We had like 25, 30 people in. Now we have 16, which, a little attrition never hurt, but all good. Yeah, I agree. And I think, Collectors agrees too. Otherwise they wouldn't have purchased There will be none of that, Max. Otherwise, they wouldn't have purchased SGC if they didn't think that like they were doing something right. But it was those three things: it was turnaround time, experience, and consistency, and customer service. Sorry, turnaround time, consistency, customer service. Those are the three things that Nat identified as being the like most attractive parts, and I think he's right. I'd like to hear what your opinion is, Rick. I think Ed is kind of tongue in cheek. I don't know if he is. It's hard to tell sometimes if Ed's being serious or not, and I think that's just part of who he is, and I love him for it. I mean, maybe Ed shouldn't have tuned into the live stream and like drudged up all of his negative feelings. I'm sorry, Ed. I mean, you know, people have a right to feel however they want. I'm just expressing how I feel, and I think this is a big part of it too. I mentioned this early, that like Fanatics has been. I mean, they acquired PWCC. They acquired like all of these licensing agreements. They've freaking fucked up baseball jerseys. they've done it all, and they're a huge disruptor right now in the collectibles market. So yeah, I think proactive, defensive. I think like those two words or two terms, but caveat: it's not by PSA. PSA is owned by collectors. It's important to make sure that we differentiate, because a lot of people are saying that PSA bought SGC, and it's not true. PSA did not buy SGC. I know what you mean, and I think it's sometimes like it's confusing for people. I know what you mean, but sometimes it's confusing for people. And I've seen it so many times on Facebook, and it's like gotten to a point where like I'm not going to correct everybody, nor do I like care to. It's not my responsibility. If they just read the news and read more than just like the headline and the sub headline, they can understand like who actually made the acquisition. But oh, you know what? I almost forgot I had this until just recently. This was from like there's so much cat hair on this, it's not even funny. My fiance wanted to like throw this away, but I wouldn't let her. This was from one of the nationals, maybe like 2019 or something, 2018. I think it was 2019. I don't remember now. But yeah, I moved with this foam finger twice. No, Max. I bet, you know, even Scotty in his like copy video when he like customized his Packers foam finger. 2019. All right. So anyway, enough of this. Maybe I can bring it back out if people are enthusiastic. Yeah, a lot of high dollar cards are in SGC holders. That is for sure. I'm laughing because of this. Yep, I certainly did. Yep. Yeah, can you imagine like I don't have a second one, but can you imagine like trying to like hold a card using this thing? Oh man. Yeah, it's too good. Hopefully like the thumbnail I can make like this. I think that would get a lot of clicks. What do you guys think? Click. Oh, it's too funny. Mookie Chilson, I know your real name, but I don't know if you want like YouTube knowing your real name. Are you going to the Philly show? Are you doing the Philly show? If so, if not, you should, and if so, I hope to see you there. So what else? Oh, you got 20 people here. That was such a fun show, man. That was such a fun show. I'm disappointed that you won't be there this time. Oh, right. You are carpooling with Dan and Sammy. I knew that, but I like conveniently forgot. Bring the foam finger to Philly. I could probably manage that. Cool, RJ. I'll be set up if you want. I'll be at the like on the far wall opposite of the entrance. Say hello. Yeah, for sure. I understand. Nonetheless, won't be the same without you. It's too fun. You know what? I think Max could probably do that. Um, that would get a lot of clicks, but also like not representative of my like attitude um, toward this news. But I'm sure if someone wanted to like take the foam finger and then Photoshop it to be the middle finger, and if they were negative or bearish on this, I can understand that. I don't have anything Mike Schmidt actually right now, which is kind of a bummer. Most of the stuff I have is like between the 50s and 70s. You know what? I don't think I'd get kicked out. I think I get a lot of laughing responses, the laughing emojis from it. I think it would be hilarious. So if you can help out with that, I would be. I would love to see it. Yeah, I'm sorry, RJ. Apologies for that. Yeah, mostly 50s through 70s. I've got like a $5 box that has some stuff in there, but probably nothing that you don't already have. Actually, 2 Philly shows ago, I saw the Puerto Rican League sticker, Mike Schmidt. I've never seen one of those at a show before. That's a cool card. It was like a PSA 4. I think he wanted like the dealer wanted like $1,200 for it, which I don't know if that's a good price or not. I have no idea. But yeah, I do remember seeing that at the September show, I think. Yeah, that's a fun card. Yeah. So, if people want to jump in and chat live, I'll put the StreamYard link in the chat so people can just copy it and we can chat and field questions that way. Obviously, don't mind talking to myself and talking to all of you guys. But keep thinking about buying that one. It's up on Bay for 10,000. What grade is that one in? I'm just looking up some of the like responses that like some of my friends 5 or a 6. Okay. Seems overpriced to me, given that they wanted the 1500 or whatever for a 4. Maybe just be more patient. I don't know. Up to you, though, of course. Here's her perspective. Here's a question. Besides a possible SGC set registry or universal registry, why is it good for collectors? Someone gives me a reason why not a fan. Someone give me a reason why not a fan of PSA. Well, I don't think a universal registry is coming, just based on like the feedback that Nat gave. I'll link this. Nope, that's not it. Sorry. I will link this article again. SGC's data with the registry is like really bad. They have like a lot of duplication and a lot of like weird idiosyncrasies in like the naming of sets and like the and the like identification of cards within the set and like identifying like variations. Like you will find if you go through like the SGC pop report that there is a lot of inconsistency in it. And so I think it would be extremely hard to have universal registry. This is kind of like my take on it. Like, I'm not a huge registry guy. I think it's like a nice thing to have, but it's not like the reason for me to submit a card. Why is it good for collectors? Well, I think like for a number of reasons. One, I think it will improve the product that SGC puts out. Like they're still going to operate as SGC, but they will get the benefits of being a collector's company. Like I'll give you an example. Well, maybe this is an example of like why I don't think much is going to happen. Think about like what happened with the acquisition of Golden Auctions. Like Golden was like a big, notable auction house. They had sold like tens to hundreds of millions of dollars in collectibles over the course of their existence, or even like in a single auction or a single year. But like I'm not really a customer of Golden's. I've like bought 2 lots. Oh boy. Ed's getting political. What has changed with Golden? I don't know, but to the extent that anything has changed has not been so different in the way that they do business as to think that like collectors came in and like screwed everything up. So I guess like with that being said, why is this good for collectors? I think the like increase or like the injection of technology, like I was saying earlier, is like a big advantage of SGC becoming acquired by this specific company, because SGC has always trailed any other grading company, like third-party grader, in the technology front. Like no one can question their customer service, no one can question their accuracy, no one can question their expertise. Like that, like those aren't the things that like they need help on. Like maybe even like SGC can share, like PSA and SGC can share because their resources are now like under one umbrella. They may operate like independently of each other, but it may not mean that like things aren't shared between companies because now the same company owns both companies. This is also an interesting thing that I haven't brought up yet, but I think this is the first time that Collectors Universe has acquired a company that is a direct competitor of another known, another like asset that Collectors has. So like when Collectors acquired like WADA, there's no other like video game grading company that competes with WADA that Collectors owns. And Collectors also owns like PGCS, like the coin grading company. I think that's the acronym, but they don't have any other coin grading companies. So I think like what's interesting about this is that like they have another trading card grading company, but I don't think like there's no precedent for like how this has worked in the past. So I think that's like another interesting part of this. Did that answer your question, Rick? I don't know. And I think the biggest benefit to Collectors is like the technology piece. I think that's like what SGC is like lacked the most, and that's what like Collectors has to offer. Like Nat is a tech guy. He began his career and sold like his first company. It was a tech company. That's his background. He loves collectibles and he loves cards and he loves, technology. And so like the melding of all of these things that this particular billionaire happens to really enjoy, I see it as a benefit to Collectors. But because the like I'll like use the other example. Like I saw this on Facebook and it like really resonated with me. Like the under Procter and Gamble. Procter and Gamble is a giant holding company for like cleaning supplies, bathroom products like toothbrushes and toothpastes, all kinds of companies Procter and Gamble owns. But within like laundry detergents, they may own like the three biggest. I'm like making this up, but like this is the example that was used. Like Procter and Gamble owns like I'm making this up again, but Procter and Gamble owns like the three biggest laundry detergent suppliers or manufacturers or distributors or brands, call them three largest laundry detergent brands in the space. But the brands still compete with each other. But at the end of the day, it goes up to Procter and Gamble. It doesn't go up to Tide or up to Clorox or up to Unilever or whatever. It goes, I'm making that up again. I don't know if those products are actually owned by, whatever. But like there can still be competition. It's not to say that like just because the same company owns PSA and SGC doesn't mean that they now have to like stop trying, because the companies still operate independently of each other. So if one is failing, then it's still not like one, it's not good for the company, and two, it's not good for the guy who's cutting the check, Collectors. It's honestly incredible that like I didn't know this, but I mean I would have. I wouldn't say I'm like extremely surprised. Like if I walk into a Red Lobster or an Olive Garden, like the vibe's kind of the same. No, full sleeve. But it is amazing like how many of these companies are just owned and like they're all crisscrossed. This is like happens in hotels too. Like Hilton buys like all these little boutique hotels and then turns them into like a Hilton hotel. But like but then the like the hotel continues to operate as like the mom and pop whatever, but like a Hilton brand. So maybe like that's what's going to happen. Like I don't know, but like these kinds of relationships exist in other like commercial products. So I don't know. That's speculation, but I just saw that on Facebook and it kind of resonated with me about like this whole thing. Rick, what concerns do you have? Oh, before we get to that, here is maybe a talking point. This was a question, rhetorical question maybe, that was asked to me by a friend. Why should I send my cards to what will now be viewed as a lesser of the two grading companies owned by the same parent company when there's reasonable doubts as to whether that will even be around in 5 to 10 years as we know it? It simply comes down to the fact that competition is good for the consumer and monopolies are bad. I agree with that. Any way they try to slice it, this will basically be a monopoly. I don't view CGC or Beckett as any real competition at the moment, and I agree with that too. I mean, I think the concern is super valid. That's a great innovation. Imagine if you had like a warm breadstick in your package. Pause. That's what she said. I don't know. And I think like this is like what's so interesting about this thing is that like so little is known, and these companies are like complex, and like people feel like passionate about them. Like, and it's so interesting like how important these third-party graders are to like the overall market. Like people were like, well, what are going to happen to my SGC cards? Like, what are they going to be worth? How can I, like, am I selling my SGC collection? Like those were like actual questions people were asking. Like this news it's big news. I think people can like come down from like the edge, right? Come off the edge a little. But you're right. Only time can answer your questions because no one, maybe the hobby is freaking out. Yeah. Yeah. And, that is a response. I think though it's like just premature because no one really knows. And just based upon what's been published by like any credible news source, I'm not going to like take the word of some like random idiot on Facebook or Twitter at their word because they don't know what's going on. They're not like in the room. And so like that's like not a valid, it's an opinion. It's conjecture. It's not a fact. So like anyone who is like off spouting about like what's going to happen and like this is what you need to do is like, I don't know. I think that's just premature and like it's like shouting fire like in a crowded place like when there's no fire. Let's see. Max, I think ultimately looking long term, we don't know, and it's so far out of our control and try not to worry. Who knows if SGC would have been around in business in 10 years if they hadn't sold. I mean, also true. We don't know. The thing with all these conglomerate companies is that they buy brands to compete with one another. Oh, they don't buy brands. They buy them to complement and serve different slivers of markets, fancy soaps, low-end soaps. Yeah. I got you. Yeah. I mean, practically my entire collection is graded by SGC. So I also have a stake, right? But I'm not pressing that panic button yet. I'm not pressing the panic button. I'm not pressing the panic button yet, because for me, I don't see things like changing so dramatically. And again, like we're not talking about like GAI or Gem or Pro. Like GAI fumbled because Mike Baker left and they started grading trimmed cards and they lost credibility. A valid reason why people don't value cards in those holders anymore. And then like Gem and Pro and those grading companies that like lasted in the 90s, like those were done out of like someone's basement. And so maybe like we should have never, like we as a collector base should have never considered that reputable or valid. I just, on a personal level, hate how corporate the hobby has gotten. Yeah, I mean, for sure. There has been an absolute like whiplash of acquisitions and news and this and that. Like the news cycle has, like for the hobby, has been like fast. Like just last week, and people are gonna like forget about this, but like just last week, that like sealed O-Pee-Chee case sold for like $3.25 million, and like that's gigantic news. But now people are gonna forget about that because that's old news now. And I know that's not like corporate news, but like that is a monumental sale. But I mean, Ed, like, because you also collect other stuff. Like once there is like proof that there's like a market and there's money, then like people are going to become involved and people want to get involved. And when big money comes in, like things change, things get acquired. Like Topps messing up on their like true 1 of 1 or like first printed thing, just an example of that. Like Topps is kind of like always messed up, but now because like they're owned by Fanatics, it's like, well, Fanatics messed up, but like it's still Topps. It's kind of like the same thing with like the jerseys, right? Like the baseball jerseys, like Fanatics took over like the production, but like they're still being produced at the same facilities. That's why I'm playing the pandemic. Well, yeah, I mean, I understand. Chris is like a great person to talk to about this stuff. And I if you had time, Chris, I would love for you to jump in this and give your 2 cents. I miss your videos, and I know we have like a group chat going, but this is a great guy to listen to in terms of his opinions, because they're usually staked in like deep critical analysis, which is nice, and not like a shotgun, like fire from the hip approach, which, as Orlando said, a lot of people are reacting to. People are freaking out. I wish the people freaking out would come into this chat and tell me actually why they're freaking out. I would love to know, because I don't personally, I don't see it. More coming. Okay. Who in this chat is going to Strongsville? This is kind of becoming the like mini national type thing. Like there's so many YouTubers going to Strongsville, myself included. I don't know if I've ever seen like the amount of YouTubers like descend upon a specific location for a show other than the national. So it's going to be quite interesting. Yeah, that is right. Here we have a comment. My honest opinion, we as collectors are always too critical. The design is never good enough. The player selection always leaves something out. Interests are landed too many parallels. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Um, Here's a caveat. We keep coming back for more. So as often as things change, people still make decisions to buy cards. People still make decisions to grade cards. People still make decisions to commit time in the hobby. Um, like even people who like complain about submitting cards to PSA still send cards to PSA. They don't change. The same thing with SGC. Like the real change will come when people begins to stop spending money. And I don't see that happening. But you're right, RJ. That's a great point. That's a great point. I want to read another opinion here. This was more of like a hot take. This is quoting. I do think PSA will eventually fold SGC like over the next 5 years. By doing so, they will eliminate the vintage competition and some of their modern competition. Vintage and pre-war collectors won't have a choice because who actually submits vintage cards to Beckett or CGC? They'll have to submit to PSA. Think of all the money they could potentially make with all the collectors who could cross their old defunct SGC slabs to PSA. And I'm sure they paid a good chunk of change for SGC. The best way to make that money back, unfortunately, is to cut payroll at HTC, sell the parts, fold the company. To me, it makes little to no sense for them to keep HTC operating. It does for the short term, but not 5+ years. I hope I'm wrong. Competition is good for everybody, and you can't beat the customer service at HTC, at least compared to PSA. I hope the acquisition doesn't go through. Well, it is. What's next? Fanatics acquiring PSA. So that's like a very hot take. I don't know if I like align with a lot of that. But in my thought, like, why would why would collectors spend so much money on a company just to like collapse it into themselves? It doesn't like quite make sense to me. Oh, Chris. You know what? That's a great question. I don't know if I've seen a card recently graded by BVG. Chris, what is your standpoint about this news? You are not a hobby. Sorry, you are not a YouTube content creator, but you do have a presence on other social channels. So I'm curious to hear. Strategic vision. Well, just based upon the this is like based upon the press release, and this is another good question. I think it may be like the inner workings, like sharing trade secrets, that, and like sharing expertise. Like I heard like very recently that PSA only has 8 vintage graders in the entire company. And if you look at like how quickly like the value submissions go through for like pre-modern and modern, like if I were to submit pre-modern, which is like 81 and back, to PSA, it takes 4 months. 4 months. If I submit modern, it takes 1 month, which is a lot shorter than it used to be. It used to be like 6 months for any bulk level modern order. But 4 months to 1 month, that's the difference. That's why I can't submit vintage cards, above $100 ungraded to PSA, because I can't afford to wait that long. When I think PSA, so back to your question, what IP does SGC have that PSA doesn't? I think it's the soft skills, it's soft stuff, not hard stuff. pause. But it's like what was identified by Nat and the Collectors Group is the customer service, turnaround time, expertise. PSA is so inundated with customer service. I think they can probably learn a few things from SGC and like take some care, and that'll go a long way with keeping customers with PSA. But I also don't think that like Collectors bought SGC to improve PSA. I think those two will stay separate. But it doesn't mean that like ideas won't flow between. All right, Chris, I don't have any hot take. I prefer PSA slabs. SGC are okay, but I like PSA. Lizard Brain. Carlisle, hello. Coke buys Pepsi. Most Pepsi drinkers will not switch to Coke, vice versa. So I imagine they'll continue to sell both. Well, you know, Coca-Cola owns like Coca-Cola, Sprite, Dr. Pepper, Barks, Dasani, all kinds of like soft drink brands and water brands. And then, you know, Pepsi is Pepsi Cola, Sierra Mist, like Fanta, Mug. So like comparable flavors in like soda, but yeah, I don't know. Chris says they don't need the volume. It's not a horizontal integration play. It's got to be something that like you were spending vintage know-how and expertise. Yeah. I don't think that they acquired SGC to improve PSA. I think they acquired SGC to improve SGC. BVG still exists. I got a 35 Newt Rockney back. Okay, so I'm curious, Lincoln Thomas, why did you submit the 35 Newt Rockney to BVG? Yeah, we talked about that a little bit. I think that's definitely valid. I think there's a lot of truth to this, and I think the speculation is valid. But I'll link the I'll link this post again. There are some good quotes by Nat talking about no universal registry, and the idea about combating like counterfeit cards. To me, that's like a very interesting thing that both companies want to tackle together. Because it's not often that a counterfeit card now ends up in a holder. Maybe a while ago it did, but I just don't think that happens a lot anymore. I think people are like, there's safeguards like the eBay authentication program. Yeah, this is my question. Yeah, I don't know. Earlier, Sammy Thunder said some reputable Facebook dealer said between $100 and $150 million. To me, it doesn't seem like a lot, but I don't know. SGC is also a small company. PSA is struggling super hard lately on identifying Venezuelan cards. That's interesting. I know your experience with them is like more advanced and maybe, oh, here it is. PSA has been slabbing altered U.S. issued cards as Venezuelan. So in your experience, like because I'm not extremely familiar, I know enough. Oh, so Chris thinks that between 100 and 150 million is massive, and there's no way. To be honest, I have no idea how to like value a company. You probably would have more experience with that in your line of work than I would. Is there something greater going on that we don't know about? A modern scandal? I mean, the Blowout Detective Agency is like always hard at work, doing a lot of detective work. Okay, so this is really key info. So is SGC worth a fifth of Topps? I don't know. SGC is a really small company that acts like a big company. How many cards are they grading a month? You know what? I don't know. You may have to consult GemRate. They have that data. Let's see, Ed. The big problem now that all new card doctors who are using chemicals to soak all types of cards, minor advantage, perhaps a big issue down the road, water damage shows up. Yeah, I mean, totally. It's possible. I mean, we saw evidence based upon like Orlando's videos, like really telling about that. So I think there's some validity, and I have my like own opinions about card restoration and like Kurt's card care, stuff like that. That I'm not going to get into now because it's not like the topic, but yeah. Didn't they acquire PSA for $700 million? I don't remember what that figure was. Maybe Chris can chime in. I think he would probably remember better than I would. Yeah, Orlando did have a really good video about that. So $3 billion private, but what referring to what? Oh, purchasing PSA? Holy guacamole. If that's true, then that's a fuck ton. But I mean, that's dropping the bucket compared to $3 billion. Oh, here we go. Yeah. But that was all of Collectors Universe, not just PSA. All of Collectors was purchased. So comparatively speaking, like there are many companies, I mean, maybe not at the time in 2021. Because I feel like since that press release came out, Collectors have purchased other companies. Holy cannoli. That is quite a difference. If SGC added a registry, will their holders or cards go up in value? I mean, I think it's only, in my opinion, this is not fact. This is just my thought about that question. I think maybe a little bit, but I think the types of cards that people submit to SGC and the types of cards people submit to PSA are different. And so the people chasing SGC registry sets would have to maybe submit a lot of cards themselves to fill their set rather than go in the marketplace, any marketplace, and buy them from a dealer or a 4-Shot Corners or wherever. Because I just don't think, even like when SGC had a registry, I don't think people were submitting cards like that. And you can even like comb through their pop report, like go to 73 Tops baseball, like shit, even 77 baseball. I haven't gone through that set in the pop report, but I can bet without looking that the amount of like commons that are submitted to SGC and the commons that are the amount of commons submitted to SGC and PSA vary very differently. So I think the registry, especially for vintage sets, has really given PSA like a huge bump. Because I was talking about this with Orlando earlier in this chat. You know, if you have a number one registry, if you have a number one set in PSA registry, that is a gigantic selling point for somebody. And if someone buys a number one registry set, upgrades it, and then pushes it back into the PSA registry, I mean, they've just made their set. They've just acquired a set and then made their set better. And people go crazy right now for graded sets anywhere on the registry, like top 10, top 20. Like people go nuts for graded sets. So I guess long story short, I think to answer your question, maybe, I think there would be a little bit of a bump, but I don't think it would be like quite to the level that people might expect. Oh, yeah, I remember that. Oh man, I think they should call themselves PSG CSA. I would like to hear what you found. Okay. Everyone's got their thing. What I mean is whether it's a PSA or SGC. No. So that will not happen. I linked in the. I saw another question down. I'm gonna get to. So a universal registry is not happening. Nat came out and said that is not going to happen. I think people really want that. I think it would make people's lives a lot easier in terms of like how they organize and compete in their collecting. But that's not going to happen. I went to Beckett because PSA kept putting sandwich bags in my slabs and cards in the wrong size holder. That drives me insane. The fact that PSA can't standardize the size they give like T206 cards or Gaudi cards or like 60s tops cards in and stuff moves around, to me, that's like inexcusable. A certified and graded collectible should not be able to move within a holder. But I get your reason for switching. All right, this is a big question. If Collectors Universe ends up disappearing, the SGC brand, how would that affect you and other dealers? So this is my thought on that. That would I would have to shift my grading strategy. I would have to submit cards much more often and be less picky about submitting cards because I would have to get more cards funneled through PSA to make sure that I can get them back in a cyclically. So I'm never at a deficit with submitting cards. The reason that I submit so much to SGC is that I trust their grade mostly. Sometimes I crack things out. And two, I can't wait 4 months to get vintage cards back. I can wait 2 weeks. Now SGC is 2 weeks about. I can wait 2 weeks. I can't wait 4 months, and I won't pay $50 a card to wait a month. It just doesn't make any sense. And so, if that did end up happening, I would, and I think a lot of people would be like really surprised at that news. The result of that, if that did happen, I would be, interested to see like what happened with like the like values of like old generation SGC cards versus like newer generation of SGC cards. Something I'll have to think about more. If I was buying SGC, I would start by asking, okay, but what's your best? Is that okay? I'm not sure I totally understand. Jake can't stand when cards move around, and this is what worries about me at the sale. Who's going to keep PSA accountable if they don't have serious competition? Yeah, it's a fair question. And here's a perfect example of that. I think this is like that inconsistency is what drives a lot of people crazy. Apparently, SGC have only 7% market share. I don't feel like they are providing all that much competition. I know that PSA grades like 1 million cards a month. I don't prefer them only like when scanning, but I think actually for preservation, like long-term preservation of a collectible, they are better. I think like scientifically, because the Mylar shields from like UV-ish or some protection, like some light protection. I'm not a total expert about that, so I don't know. So yeah, I'm with you. But like scanning a card that like has a Mylar baggie is a nightmare. Done. Yeah, that's a funny one. So I guess Max, I'm remembering now to answer your question. It may be that SGC was grading like 100,000 cards a month. But I don't know like what recently they were doing in terms of their output. It's a dealer joke. SGC had their price tag. Did the collectors see the sticker and ask, oh, okay, I understand. I get it. Like a card show negotiation. I understand. I get it. It's a card show joke. Admittedly, that went over my head, but I get it now. I won't be in Chantilly. I don't know if I can like swing that show much anymore. It's just it's a hike for me. I'll go to Philly. I'll sometimes go to like Shriners in Boston. I'll go to the National. But going to Chantilly is like, it's like a 5-hour drive. So it's a long way to go. So I don't know. I do like that show though, but I get a lot of the same dealers, or a lot of the same dealers go to Philly that go to Chantilly show. I live in New York City, RJ. So Yeah, a lot of the same dealers that do Chantilly do Philly and do White Plains. Yeah, I have heard that. I was going to be doing that April. No, I was going to be doing that November show. I didn't go, and I heard it was the right move. Yeah, no, I know. We're kind of like, well, I'll put it this way. Max, there is a really good pizza spot like on the corner, and I have to walk like maybe 200 feet to get there. But there's great pizza all over. It's great. I eat pizza. I don't know, maybe once a week. I get a slice. Oh, is he actually going to be there? If he is, and he walks by my table, I might shout something at him, or I'll just wear like a Mets hat. I really don't like that guy personally, but you know why. I mean, yeah. So, what is it? Nope. That banner. Um, some parts of Georgia. What? Some parts of Atlanta are 5 hours, and I live in Atlanta. That's crazy. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate you stopping by. Well, I'm 0 for 2, RJ. Yeah, I would love to, Chris. Thank you. That's super interesting to me because, like the card is still altered whether or not it's like tops or it's Venezuelan tops, right? So like for me, it's just like an alteration detection that they are incapable of doing. But I'm interested. I'm curious to see like I see it now. The scoop. I appreciate everyone coming in. This has been awesome. Going for almost 2 hours here. But if anyone wants to jump in the live stream and talk and field questions, I will be happy to share the StreamYard link in the chat, and we'll get you right in and can have a discourse. Ed, are you going for autographs at the Philly show? I'm curious. Yeah, I would like Don. I'd like Don to go in the video. Don. Let's check if any other YouTuber that I subscribe to has posted a video regarding the subject. Oh my God! You know what? I have not done my Immaculate Grid yet today. This has been like the latest I've gone without doing a grid. So that'll be the next thing I do after this, after I finish my live. It's been like months since I've missed doing a grid on a specific day, so I have to do my grid today. Yeah, but this news got me all flustered. I usually have like my morning routine. I wake up, I like do breakfast things, and then I hit Immaculate Grid like once my brain kind of turns on. But this morning I didn't do that. My brain was on, but it was thinking about all this stuff. So yeah, no grid. Oh, here we go. Ed, you the man. Thank you for joining. I'll see you in a week, buddy. Yeah. Yeah, there's a disconnect there. There's an absolute disconnect there. Even even like the cost of like signing some rookie cards that like promoters and athletes are charging, like don't even equal like what they, not that it like always matters what it sells for, but it should be like an indication. But you're right. Like why get your specific item autographed by Mike Schmidt when you can get a very similar item on eBay for less than half that same price? I don't know. Everyone has their motivation though. I mean, I'll give you like an example. I went to the Boston area to get Eckersley to sign a ticket last summer, and the ticket on its own is like a $300 ticket. With his autograph, you know, it adds value. But you know, I was exchanging like I was talking to people in line about and seeing like what they were getting signed. And Eckersley was charging like $70 per signature. Some people were getting like literally junk wax cards signed, like an 88 Topps Eckersley, like stuff that's like just not like early 90s Topps cards signed, like whatever they had, they brought, and they paid more than I did. You know, same amount per signature. I only got him to sign one thing, but you know, they paid more because they got some like 85 Topps cards signed. And I was like, kind of like, like, why are you doing that? But I mean, some people, it doesn't matter like what it costs. They just like they just want the thing. They want the collectible. And for them, it feels worth it because it's not being sold and they don't care what it sells for. So I don't know. I think there's like an interesting relationship. Getting in-person autographs is really fun. I used to do it a lot as a kid, when I was younger, but I got away from it for a long time. But I definitely got that rush when I had to get ticket stubs signed. Yeah, John has a cool relationship with Wade Boggs. I always like to see his interactions with them. Don. I don't think Don's here anymore. That's okay. What else? Anyone want to throw a hot take out, and we'll see what. Oh, Don is here. All right, Don. Come on, Don. We know you have a hot take. Yeah, Stuke's like me. Stuke likes to dig. I like to dig. I like to find stuff. Finding stuff is fun. Don, if I put the link in the chat, will you jump in? You know, I'm just going to do it, and I'll see who. Oh, here it is, man. Oh, I'm not going to forget the National League wild card in 2016, where the Mets got blanked, and Madison Bumgarner just like owned, and then like Connor Glaspie hits a 3-run homer. Like, goodbye. But honestly, Max, like, you know, the Mets wouldn't exist if the Giants weren't in New York first. So I guess I have you to thank in a weird way. Not you, but you. Don, I put the link. Mets are not. Okay. Maybe I'll just kick you out. We don't know. I mean, it is my show. Oh, I could put you in timeout. Huh. Sounds good, Don. Well, yeah. Woof for a Mets fan. 2 brutal collapses. I always miss you, so guess it wouldn't change anything. Gone through a lot of water, a lot of talking. So are people going to? Oh, there he is. Yo,
Hey,
what's up, man?
how you doing?
Dude, I like the wall art.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, we'll chat about that.
Yeah.
Tell a little story.
Okay. Are you going to Philly?
I am 50-50. Usually with that stuff, I make like a game time decision Tuesday or Wednesday. Work is a little hectic right now, but
Understood.
yeah. You'll be there. You'll be set up.
I will.
Nice.
I will. So obviously you've heard the news. You've had a chance to digest it. What's your take? I'm curious to hear what your opinion is.
Yeah, I mean, I heard that all of this is worthless now, so I'm a little upset. Just all these cards just suck. So. I guess I'll crack them. I'll clean them, call up Kurt's Card Care, trim them, get them to PSA, open through WCC, and do that thing, I guess. So no, I'm joking. I kid.
So what's the actual take, though?
These things happen. These. Look at Disney in the real world. It owns a million different things, right? So this is how money moves around, and I don't know. I did like to see that they'll operate as individual entities, right? So I'm sure they see things that they want to improve with SGC, but maybe they pump money into SGC and things improve. Maybe there's a registry, things like that. But I hope the SGC brand lives on. I hope, and I imagine you as well, right? I missed probably 90% of the start of this, so I don't know what you. Yeah, you're a homer, right?
The foam finger alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would describe myself as an SGC homer, but at the same time, I have been critical of them in the past. But I think overall, I am more critical of PSA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
But this topic is just so interesting because everyone approaches it from their own really people are taking this really personally,
right?
Even the PSA loyalists are
mm-hmm.
Actively sounding off.
Yeah, upset that what they think SGC is going to water down something.
It's almost like people go to the, and I'm not going to get into this because I don't know if it's super relevant, but the origins of SGC with the founder and getting he's been named as a notable card trimmer. And so the early parts of SGC catering or allowing him to get cards that are trimmed in circulation. But then you have to think that the first card PSA ever certified is trimmed.
Yeah, the Wagner, right?
Right. So do both companies have muddy history? Of course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember there was a Peter from SGC. I remember a year ago watching a video, and I was like, "Really?" Because he said, alterations, things like that are going to slip through. Everyone has to deal with that, right? But if someone knows where this video is, I would love to find it, and I would love to go back to it. Is he made a statement where he was like, "I'm confident that a fake card has never slipped through," and I was like, "Whoa, let's I'm not so sure about that, right?" I know they just recently had an issue with a LeBron RPA, right? With the patch being, that's an altered card, pretty well known alteration. But Yeah, I mean, I have. End of the day, I don't really care. I like sending to SGC, but I'll buy PSA cards. I have PSA cards. You know, I have big cards in PSA. So, um, yeah, I just people's reaction is very, very, very interesting. I made a joke on Twitter. I said, we see the hobby lawyers, accountants, and doctors come out all the time, but like it's the hobby MBA's turn. Like we don't usually get the business folks. I'm trolling, but
Yeah, no, but you're right.
yeah, it's just very interesting. The people are like antitrust, those types of things. I don't know anything about that world, so um, I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to see how this works.
Yeah, I think like where the hottest, not the hottest takes, but like where a lot of like the collector takes come in is like, well, what happens to competition?
Mm.
Like like will collectors like have a choice of like whether to send a card, and does that matter anymore? And like, does the competition now, how it's set up, like, is it formatted in a way to make both companies strive to be better, or is it just, regardless of the competition, is it just about like your preference, like you preferred the SGC experience and the holder, or you prefer the PSA experience and the holder, maybe the registry too?
Yeah, the registry, right? Yeah, I get. So, have you gotten a strong feeling with your chat? Are a lot of people fans of SGC? Are people PSA fans? Are people hybrid mix? Like, depends on the card. Depends on what they're looking to do with the card. Um, I don't sell. I do not buy to resell. I do sell cards from time to time, but my intent is not to buy and resell. But I'm curious, what is like the predominant group following here in the chat tonight?
It's hard to say. I think it may skew SGC preference. But there are like some like PSA loyalists in the chat. But I would say like overarching like SGC leaning. So like we have Chris here. Do you know Chris? He also
Yeah.
He's
We see each other at Chantilly. Seen each other at the National. He's a big art guy like me. We're big into art, so we chat on the side. But
there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, he encouraged you to like jump in the chat.
Oh yeah.
So he also said he has a super hot take that we haven't quite heard yet. So he says art and writing code.
Yeah, another bond, being tech nerds.
Oh, here's my mystery friend from this morning. I did happen to read Andrew's text to me in his thoughts, so I hope I was okay to do that and not like let the cat out of the bag with Andrew's thoughts. But yeah, so yeah, I would say that it skews SGC, and I think SGC does a better job of taking care of the collector than PSA does. So I think that like makes sense.
What was Andrew's take on all this?
Well, he was actually the first person. So what you missed if you came in late is that this news broke like 11 o'clock last night. I was asleep.
Right.
I usually stay up late, but last night I was so tired I went to sleep at like 10 o'clock. So I missed all of this last night. And thank goodness I did, because if I had been up, I wouldn't have gone to sleep. Like my mind would have been like, no way. Yeah, my mind would have been like a million miles an hour.
Right.
So I woke up at like 7 o'clock, saw his text, and my response to him was, "What the fuck?" Straight up.
Yeah.
And then after that, my thoughts were like, well, what does this like actually mean?
Yeah.
Like, what is this?
Hmm.
We had a little bit of back and forth. I think Andrew's take, and he can correct me if I'm wrong, he's in the chat, is like what this will do for competition.
Right.
This was, I think he also said this like before, like the official press release came out and the video and like Nat's comments. So maybe like his take has changed since the morning. I'm not sure. But his concern is the like what will happen to SGC in 5 to 10 years. What will become of the like cards and SGC holders in his collection and others collections.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's like a competition thing, which I get. So, but Andrew, if your opinion has changed since this morning, feel free to chime in. But that Net54 thread, did you comment in it or anything, or are you following it?
Yeah, yeah, a little bit on Net54 and Blowout. The difference in tone is very different between the two. For those that frequent both, Net54 is the more serious adult conversation, and Blowout is like troll city. Like it's it's the place to go poke fun, right? So I follow both, and yeah, I think the Net54 crowd is going to be more SGC fanboyish, but also there's a lot of people there that just prefer raw cards and think the whole thing's a scam, and there's that angle. And then on Blowout, SGC is not taken very seriously because the modern card crowd and the resale crowd. But yeah, so it's very interesting to see the semantics based on where you are, right? I'm sure there's a there's a tone or semantics in Facebook, and then a unique tone and semantics on Reddit, and then Blowout and Twitter and Net54. So someone, if any of you code geeks want to use some artificial intelligence and scrape all that data and natural language processing and use semantics and tone. Sorry, I'm getting into my world a little bit. If you want to do that, that'd be very interesting. That'd be a fun project to talk about people's reactions and the semantics of it.
Can you do that?
Yeah, maybe we'll we'll think about it. But
Okay.
yeah, I think there you get little clusters, and it's very interesting to me. So, and I haven't been able to look at like Instagram as much to see if people are doing reaction videos, or YouTube. I haven't been able to look at all the videos, so I'm sure more is coming right within the last day. Yeah, what would the Blowout word like? Yeah, very interesting, very interesting.
Have you seen or watched any other like YouTube content regarding the news?
No, I like you. I mean, I woke up to a message from our shared friend Eric, those back pages, and I had a very similar reaction. It was like, what? And like by the time I just had I caught snippets of it throughout the day, like looking at Twitter. So I haven't been able to like watch a lot of the videos, but I've been kind of keeping up with some of the threads. But yeah, I'll probably dive into some people's reactions, like especially everyone's stance and everyone's position. Like I don't know, 95% of my collection is in SGC, right? So I don't want SGC to go away. Like I don't want the brand to go away. So I'm trying to think positively of like, what does this actually mean, right? They're not buying it to kill it, I don't think, right? Because that would immediately turn off a lot of future prospective customers, right? Like that's not the angle, right? So there's other things behind it. So trying to be positive, right? So
yeah, I'm glad that you also think that. That's my thought too, is that like sorry, I keep saying PSA because people are saying that PSA is buying SGC, and it's like
Oh,
bothering.
that's yeah, big time P.
Yeah, it's just not fact.
Right.
But I don't think, I'll like repeat this again. I don't think Collectors is buying SGC to improve PSA.
Mm-hmm.
I think Collectors is buying SGC to improve SGC.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, from tech world perspective, like when you buy, when there's an imbalance and there's acquisitions and like, I'm sure they have done extensive homework and research into what would take SGC to the next level, not take SGC to the next level to match the output of PSA. But there's probably something in the SGC universe, in that brand, in their operations, in their ability to have long-term collectors be long-term customers of them. Like, they see angles of being able to invest to move it 15, 25, 30%. And that could be very profitable, right? This is all about money in a way, probably. So like, how much investment into SGC gets them to 15 to 20 to 25% versus how much investment into PSA would get them to 15 to 20 to 25%. Those are way two different numbers, right?
Yeah.
That's how I would think about it. But yeah, Andrew has a great comment. I know what that card is, and I would encourage him to send it to SGC, and it's going to look great, and it's going to look fantastic, and it's going to be a massive piece of his collection. And I would do the same thing if I was him. I would send it to SGC.
Yeah, agreed. So what cards, I mean, honestly, when you flashed those two cards, those are the first cards that were ever shown on this live stream. It's been almost 2 hours and 15 minutes. So can you show them again?
I think I showed a Williams Leaf.
Such a great card.
Yeah. And then I showed a Wagner.
Playing golf.
Yeah, golf swing. You remember this card?
Absolutely.
Like a few days before, I was with Andrew and I saw his copy and I was like, I'm buying this card. And then I ran into you and you had it. So I'm glad we were able to do that. So that was really cool.
It's fortuitous for both of us.
Yeah. Yep. That was awesome.
That was fun.
Yeah, Phillies next week. I heard rumblings of that. How many people in the chat are going? I think I saw Ed Wesker. Ed was in here, so he's probably going. I know Andrew.
Yeah, Ed, Andrew, Mike, RJ who's in the chat will be there. Not sure if anybody else. I guess you're on the fence. You're sufficiently on the fence. Yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna be a good turnout. And then Strongsville is like a month from that, which will be like the mini like YouTube get together for the national, which is like kind of crazy.
Yeah. You'll have to get down to. I know the Chantilly's. I heard you saying that Chantilly's a little bit far, but you'll have to get to the Net 54 thing next year if you can.
Yes, that is something that I really want to get to. The only reason why I didn't go this year is because on that same day I was shopping for my wedding suit.
Oh, okay.
So. Priorities, but 2025, I'm going to make a really, really good effort to go.
Nice.
And I'll bring some fun stuff, I hope.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, man.
So how's the flea market buying going right now? What else are you doing in New York?
I did a show last weekend on Long Island. They had some like 86 Mets that were there signing, so that got a lot of people in. Yeah. That's my first time doing that show. Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting if I do it again. It's a monthly show. It's like one of the better like monthly shows on Long Island I come to know. Mm-hmm. So I did that. Did like this little like rinky-dink show in Queens that like always sucks, but if I have like nothing better to do on Saturday, I do it.
Right.
I think it's actually they moved it to next Saturday, so no chance to do that show, which is great.
Yeah.
Um,
Let
yeah,
me ask you this. So at Philly next week, will you be talking to, I know the SGC reps usually at the show are a little bit more junior. They're really just there to help you log in and catalog. I've never really had like a conversation with anyone I would expect to be in like management position. Will you be talking to SGC next week, asking them questions or anything like that? Or will it just be normal business? Are you submitting? I'm sure you're still going to do business with them, right? So
yeah.
do you have questions for them, or are you just going to wait?
Sometimes they bring like one person who's more senior to Philly.
Yeah.
He doesn't. His name's also Brian. I don't know if you know him.
No, I don't.
Um, sometimes he goes. I expect that there will be a lot of people asking them questions. Um, and being that this news is so close in proximity to the show, I it's the same thing with like when the PWCC news like kind of broke around the national, everyone was like buzzing around that. Like that was the buzz that year.
Yeah.
People were like filming PWCC, like asking them like behind the camera questions. It was like really weird.
Yeah, that's pretty weird.
So, in my experience, SGC is like really tight-lipped about stuff.
Right.
Like they don't answer questions without like a public statement.
Right.
So I'm sure that like they're coaching any person that's going to shows to be like refer to a press release, like we don't know the answer to that question yet, and like defer.
Yeah.
If they do answer questions, I would be like really surprised. That's just like not how SGC has operated with like sharing news like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chris had a question. Do we think SGC will still have their own dedicated booth in National? I do, because I think that they will be operating independently of PSA.
Yeah. I had 2 cards reholdered at the National last year. I dropped 1 card off on Wednesday at around like noon, and by 2:30 that day, it was before the doors opened, but in 2 hours they had the first card reholdered. And then on Thursday, I bought a card maybe at around 10 a.m. And it was in an older SGC holder. And I took it over to them at maybe 11 a.m. And by like 3 p.m., they had it back, in my hands. I paid for like same day, of course, on both cards. But I know people that like did the multi-day thing, and they were getting cards back in a day, less than a day. I don't know how it was like if you dropped off on like a Friday and then we're waiting. I don't know, but like, yeah, I mean, SGC's like their turnaround, it's so fast, right? So I don't know. Like I'm curious. Like I'm curious about the pricing of this year. I think at last year it was CGC was $20, SGC was what 35. 75 for the higher tier, and the PSA was 150 at the lowest. It's like I'm very curious what they're gonna do, right? And Beckett's not real, so I'm not sure what they're gonna be doing. But
yeah, I think the turnaround time has to just do with like volume and scale.
Sure.
Like if SGC, the small company, like had the volume that PSA had,
yeah, they slow down.
yeah, I mean, we saw like orders become slow because they introduced like a shiny Bowman card special.
Yeah, $9, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's been I guess like now 2 weeks since like Top Series 1's come out, and they haven't
no special. right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember a few months ago, I sent them, like, I realized how ridiculous I was, but I sent them, I sent them, I don't know, like 20 cards. And in one of the cards, I sent something like so obscure from like the 1910s. I think it's something French.
Okay.
It's like a plain back Rembrandt art card. And I thought I was cool, and I sent it in the order. And my order took like 3 weeks, like before, to get through. And I messaged them. I was like, well, "What's going on?" And they're like, we're doing research and ID." And I was like, "Yes, Donald, you are being ridiculous. Like 3 weeks because you sent in something so obscure. Calm down, because some people wait 50, 60 days with other options, right? So, I think we have it good if you submit to SGC, right? 3 weeks is not bad door to door. So yeah.
Did they ID that card correctly?
Yeah, they basically said we can't do anything about it. And I will say their customer service, they apologized, gave me a little code. So the next time I went to SGC at a show, I got a card. So their
That's
customer
nice.
service is unmatched in my experience, right? So yeah.
Yeah, I remember Drew, Lefty NDV10. He submitted, this was like a couple of years ago, and he can like corroborate the story. He submitted like this George Washington card. It was like some like larger like 1800, like late 1800s card, like George Washington, like very like American, flags and banners and his portrait, like all, the works. But SGC took so long to like ID, or like in the research and ID department. And then it was like an extended delay, like way, way, way longer. And even after all of that, they still ID'd the card incorrectly.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
Yikes. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know, for people that do like vintage orders with PSA. I know for a little bit that kind of slowed down pretty significantly, right? So, have you submitted to PSA recently in like the last year, vintage?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is it noticeable?
Yes.
Okay.
I was talking about this earlier.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I don't mind like repeating it because we're on a long stream here. So at the same service level, pre-modern and modern, it's just a difference of like when the card was produced. Pre-modern, like anything like a vintage era from like 81 and back, at that level is right now is like 4 months.
Wow.
Modern, same service level, is 1 month.
Wow.
Or shorter. I was told some time ago, I don't remember exactly when, but I was told that PSA has only 8 vintage graders. 8. And I think, and because of that, I think that is where, especially the people who are submitting, like in this community, who like share results, who do videos about like, here's my preview and here's my reveal, about like what I expect and what I get.
Oof.
I think a lot of that difference in the consistency comes because they have 8 graders doing vintage cards. And so like over the course, and they can't, and maybe they're having trouble training new hires, whatever, in grading vintage cards and how it's different from grading modern cards.
Right.
But George, Diamond Yard Sports Cards, I don't know if you follow George. He's got a great channel.
Yeah. Yep.
He put out a video today, and he said, speaking of like the inconsistency of PSA, and how it drives him crazy, that he could submit like 10. He used this example, like 10 Otani rookies of the same card, and they all get 9s. He said statistically that's like very impossible.
Oof.
Or he also gave the example of like opening card of a pack, right into a sleeve, right into a card saver, and out, and it gets like a 7.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I believe that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have like that exact experience, but I
Yeah.
trust George.
I mean, we've seen like we've seen it. People say it never goes both. People say it's unidirectional, that it never goes the other way. I disagree, but people say like, oh, you could crack a PSA 6 modern card and get a 10 in SGC, but you couldn't do that in reverse. You know, a 6 to a 10 is a big leap. But I remember a few years ago there was like a 2011 Topps Update Trout where a PSA 6 was cracked, sent back to PSA, got a 10.
Okay.
What was the pitcher for the Yankees? Phil Hughes. He did that.
Oh, really? He did that?
Yeah, he went from a 6 to a 10. So like, yeah, 8 to 10, 9 to 10, 7 to 9, like. So it's a gamble. That's why I buy ones. That's why I buy 1.5s, 2s. One because the wallet, but like, I'm not chasing grades. I don't know, but that's very interesting.
Here's some comments here. Stuke says, my last order with SGC arrived February 8th and has been post-grading for 4 days. That's actually a really long time to be in post-grading. My SGC order that popped today was only in post-grading since yesterday. Chris sent a modern sub and a vintage sub at the same time. Modern was door-to-door in a month. Vintage is still in grading. That is exactly my experience.
Crazy.
Carlisle, last submission, I sent SGC card from a set they'd never graded before. I only seen a couple graded by PSA, and it took a while, but they graded it.
Yep.
Everyone it's funny, like everyone has an experience.
Yeah.
Like that, I think that's why this news is so, it like cuts through like so much. It like really exposes like people's like thoughts and their opinions and their feelings about it, because like it's like grading cards is so personal to people.
Right.
Everyone has thoughts. Everyone has an opinion about it.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is like really good to talk about. It's fun.
Final question for you. How many SGC cards in your collection do you have?
I don't even know.
You don't even know.
I mean, I fill up. Well, maybe I do. So like I have a 3-row graded box that like houses all my like regular size cards.
Yep.
And then I have a like larger box that houses like tall boy slabs.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have like and when I say old, this plastic bag is like 10 years old. It's like one of those like heavier plastic, not like grocery bag, but like heavier, like it's a plastic bag, like stuffed, like literally full of like oversized stuff. Some cards there are graded by SGC. So that box, the graded 3-row is supposed to hold 150 cards, but SGC slabs are thicker than PSA slabs.
Right. So 35 to 40 maybe each row. 40?
Yeah, I would say like in that box is maybe around 100, 120 cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably like around 140 if you like include everything.
Are they all worthless now?
No, not to me.
Oh, right. People need to calm down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. What about you?
I mean, I would probably say, I don't know, 50 between non-sports and baseball. 40, 50. And it like, I don't know, 5 PSA. I don't really have a large collection, but yeah, I'd say, but it's like 90%, 85%, 90% SGC. So
Likewise.
Love to hear it. All right, man. I'm gonna get out of your hair. Thanks for
All
letting
right.
me come on.
It was fun.
I was peer pressured. Oh, I forgot to tell you. So those are all the places I've lived. So I grew up in New York. I lived in Hawaii, Colorado, Tennessee, and I obviously live in Virginia now. So those are the places I've been at. But
It's funny because I was trying to like identify like what the shape was between Colorado and New York. I'm like, what is that? Is that like a country that I'm just like unfamiliar with the shape? It's an island.
it's the island of Oahu. So yeah, I lived on Hawaii for a couple years.
So cool.
But yeah, man, thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being open to jumping in. It's really fun.
Yeah. All right, man. Have a good night.
All right, bye.
All right, bye.
If anyone else wants to come in and chat, more than happy. I'm going for 2.5 hours. I'm getting hungry, so I might call it soon. But yeah, here we continue. Carlos submitted a mint card, came back a 6, displayed upside down as a 9. Max wants Drew to go live. Feel much better about that statement. Yeah, I do too. Like that helped me a tremendous amount. If I remember correctly, Adam Smith on Sports cracked at SGC 6, got a better grade at PSA 7. Wow. A lot of inconsistency. PSA grades, Venny's easier than SGC. I've got a number of grade bumps. Interesting. Wonder why that is. Drew. Still cards at PSA that won't grade, but SGC will. Yeah, so that was an interesting thing. Oh, I feel like we gotta at least for a neck up or a neck down if you're feeling saucy. This is an interesting thing because there are, and this I think this question maybe had like been answered before it was clarified that the companies were staying independent and all of that. That like the cards that PSA, SGC grade or will not grade between the two, is that changing? I'm not sure. I don't know. Like PSA grades the Star Jordans or the Star cards from like the 80s. And that's a recent thing. But will SGC now, I don't predict that. Like I don't predict that will happen. I think that they will still again like maintain independence. But it's an interesting thought experiment. You know where I stand. Yeah, and I think that there are other examples like that people like I'm in a word. I think that's also possible. Certainly. Someone in the group chat that I'm in said that it will be hard to grade 61 Fleer basketball. There's a lot of size differential and variance in that set. I don't quite know if I like totally agree with that sentiment, but I don't know. It's like the thing that people are like also talking about. That's an interesting idea. And I think it's begun, and maybe this is like why this is happening now, but like I think pricing, like maybe this is why the acquisition happened now, is that SGC has gained ground in that regard. It's always been, and I think people still believe that like PSA cards will always outsell an SGC card. And I think in some cases that's true, but in some cases that's also untrue. But what do we collectors always say is we buy the card. But people do put a lot of weight and value into who graded the card and when the card was graded. And I think there's some validity to that. There's another like topic, but there's some validity to that. I think. Does it like always dictate like a buying choice? I don't think so, but I think people pay more for cards that are recently graded. Um, but it's also like easy to determine if a card's been recently graded or not. Like if you see a card in like a memory lane or a heritage auction and has like a really old cert but a new label, like that card's been reholdered. If you see like, you can also look in SGC's like cert verification page on their website. It will tell you like exactly the month and the year that card was graded. So like I have a card in my collection I knew was graded like a long time ago. But I had it reholdered, but that cert like in the system still carries. So it's like a new cert number because from like the green labels to now the black labels, they don't have the same cert numbers, but that date stamp still carries from the prior, like the time that it was submitted prior. Now, if I crack that card out and send it back in, it's a new cert. It's new, so that that wouldn't happen. But anyway, Drew goes, the stuff I collect pre-war increasingly negligible on price when it comes to the more rare stuff. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. I think there are some things like some segments and some cards that are like more immune to that. The stuff that's like traded regularly or the stuff that's like really catered to like the PSA registry, I think will always see that increase. I mean, I was talking about this earlier. Like that's why I don't send like high grade commons to SGC. Is because I think like a card like that has more buyers in high grade through PSA than does SGC. Yeah, I'm curious like what their submission numbers do over the next like 2 to 3 months as like this news kind of permeates. Like, do people continue to send cards to SGC? Do people shy away? Do people hold stuff that's ungraded because they're unsure where to send it? I mean, if they run a modern special, like they have been, like the Series 1 modern special hasn't come out yet. Like I think people were expecting it to. Maybe this is timing is because of this acquisition. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for hanging around. Yeah. Yeah, it will be interesting. I'll have to like pay special attention at the Philly show if I get like comments about my SGC cards in my showcase, or if I hear people talking about SGC around the show floor. Yeah. Big facts. That's a fact, Will. I'm surprised that I'm gone this long too. I've exhausted my water bottle. I haven't eaten dinner yet, but we're still here. And I think once it hits 3 hours, like maybe in 20 minutes, I'll call it. But we'll see. Who knows? Hope you're notified ahead of time when the price increase. This time, COVID pricing was 10. Yeah, well, I don't know if we're gonna have anything like that ever happen again, but who knows? If you can fly 3,000 miles across the country just to come to a show and say something crazy to me, I mean, I'd love to see you, but if you want to like invest that, then I mean, that's up to you, man. Yeah, but I want to like keep my ear to the ground, especially the Philly show. It's such a vintage heavy show. Like what people are talking about. Iron actor. Yeah, I want to hear what people are talking about. I think the tinfoil hat crew will be alive and well. I will. Come say hello. Would love to see you. What's your name? Yeah, the same spot I've always been in. Fall wall opposite the door. along that back wall is where we will be. So for fun, this was like some time ago, maybe like a year plus ago. PSA has like 8 numbers in their certs. SGC has 7. So I typed 69696969 into PSA just to see like what would come up. And it's actually like a Pokemon card. But I have to think that like if someone had that card and sold it, I think someone would buy it for like a meme of the cert number. Oh man. Nice. Yeah, so I'm sure like there's some like hilarious combination that like can be found on the SGC cert number dealio. But yeah. Here's like a weird, well, not like a weird thing, but it's a topic that I see brought up a lot on in that 54, and it's that SGC allows their employees to submit cards for grading, just like if they were like a regular customer. What does everyone like think about that? Personally, like I don't care about that because I don't know if like the grader has knowledge of like whose card belongs to who. And I don't think they do like with PSA either. Like maybe like a high profile card or being submitted by a certain person. But I have to think, or I tend to think that like those like processes are done in different places. Like the grader doesn't receive the order and it's like, this is Brian's order. And so like probably because like if they knew whose order it was, they could like infer bias. We've talked about this for a little bit here. Unfortunately, this is probably not going to happen. I don't think like anything universal or like cross-pollination between the two companies is I'm just laughing at Max's comment. He's really gotten very ornery in this chat. Any like cross-pollination, I don't think is like part of this plan. Yeah, separation of duties and submitter anonymous. I think that's how it goes, but I think people don't like that there could be room for like conflict of interest. Yeah, and I also think that like these departments are like in the same office a lot of the time. So like if they see like someone in the lunchroom, be like, oh, I'm going to submit like a 55 Bowman Hank Aaron, like take a look at that. Let me know what you think. But like next time that person sees that card, they're gonna be like, oh, I bet this is like John's card. So I don't know. There are workarounds. My subgroup calls one of the PSA graders the Nininator. Am I reading that right? Yes, same table as before. Far wall opposite the door. Same place as always. Nininator. So always giving 9s. Well, you can easily do both things. You just have to like sacrifice some, maybe some pride in one of those regards. I mean, we can find you a job and also find you a wife. If SGC offered you a job, but it would require you to move to Boca Raton, and do like research or grading or whatever, would you do it? I would think not, but I'd like to hear what you say. He says, hell no. But they can't afford me. That's probably true. I was talking about this. So like the amount of like plastic waste that these companies contribute to is not like on the level of like these like gigantic corporations like Coca-Cola or like these packaged food brands, but it's not nothing. I don't know if like let's say I crack a card. I don't know if that plastic is recyclable. All right. The chat's getting ornery. The last several years, the Walmart Blaster Collector submitting 8,284,625 10th year Luca base cards. Yeah. See, I did too, but then, pandemic, and here I am. Yeah. So back to the plastic and waste thing. So, again, they're not the biggest contributor, but they're not they're not absolved and the smallest. Like even like a top loader, like this is not nothing over the course of like time and quantity. So I'd be curious because there are a lot of like other larger corporations, and I only know this because my partner is like working in this space. But there are a lot of like larger corporations that are making pledges to be carbon neutral by 2050 or all electric cars at 2030 or like these big goals. I don't think these companies are like big enough to like pledge that, and I honestly don't even think that like the demographic of collectors like care about that. Like the customer is not the same. The consumer is not the same that would be like buying or collecting cards as it would. I mean, the consumer is the same, but like their values may be different. Like they may not care about pollution or like burning coal to make plastic or anything like that. Yes, I was just like oil. Yes, that's what I was trying to get at. Put my paper in a plastic, and then that plastic in plastic, and then that plastic into cardboard. Oh man, yeah. Max is getting ornery. It's time for Max to take a nap. I think Max has had a long day. Oh, but no, that's actually the life cycle, right? The paper, the card in plastic, and that plastic into plastic, and then that plastic thing into a cardboard box. You're right, actually. I mean that cardboard would be recyclable, I would think, but I don't know if the plastic pieces are. Yeah, I don't see that happening either. I don't know if like the value systems like align. I also don't think like the like average collector like gives a crap about plastic pollution, climate change, and crap like that. So, but at the same time, like I was like my fiance used to work in bio industries, like bioplastic, plastic alternatives, and I was asking her about this is like a huge tangent, but it's interesting. I asking her about like the transparency of the product that's being like made now as an alternative to plastic that could like break down in a landfill or break down like in the ocean if like not composted. And right now, like to get something clear and it not to be plastic is not possible. So like the product is like kind of like an off-whitey or like a cream color, but it's not transparent. It's not even like almost translucent. Um, and so like right now, that's not a possibility in terms of like the small scale, like penny sleeves and top loaders, card savers. Okay, vintage cards, recycled paper that we preserve in plastic. Yep. Wax paper and gum are biodegradable. Yep, that's true. Yeah, you know, I wonder if I feel like there was in like last year's like industry summit, Tops did say something about um, like conservation in that way, and that they like acknowledge how much like waste like plastic wrap, packs, boxes, cases, tape, all that kind of stuff is just like waste and waste and waste. Um, and I think they're beginning to acknowledge like how much they're contributing. So it's interesting. Here's a fact though: only like 8% of recyclable plastic in the U.S. is actually recycled. The company to actually recycle the country to actually recycle best is like Germany. Like a third of all of their plastic is actually recycled. But yeah, we've really like made the left turn into like sustainability and plastic pollution. So I'm happy that we're here at the 2 hour 52-minute mark. I think though by the 3 hour mark I'm going to call it. So because I have to eat, I'm really hungry. This has been like really fun. We've had like some like really interesting talk in this chat, and we had Don on, which is really fun. But I'm just like really interested to see how this all shakes out. Most recycled material. Do you know the answer, Max? Don't let me or your future wife down. The most recycled material. I'm gonna think about it for another 10 seconds. I feel like that has the potential to be like a trick question. But I'd probably have to say like cardboard. There's a lot of cardboard out there, and it's constantly being recycled. So cardboard. Water's an interesting answer, but I don't know if that's a material. But Max, do you consider water a material in this question? Water is an interesting answer. Max. Oh man, I'm getting loopy. All right, let's say that we get this answer from Max, and then I think that is going to do it. So don't keep us waiting, Max, because right now there's not. Oh man, I've always said that I don't consider water material. I've been very consistent. Well, you make a great politician. But please let us know the answer to the question. Okay. Well, I don't know it. I guess I can ask my fiance. Steel. But steel was only produced in like the 1920s or something. Still breathing air molecules from the Roman Empire. I mean, I guess that's true. And still from like when the like dinosaurs walked the earth, like that air probably. I don't know. Is that air recycled? We're getting off topic. I think it's time to cut this off. What do you guys think? Really had a lot of fun. If there is more news or another great recycling jokes, it's a double meaning with that one. If there's more to talk about, which I'm not sure there is, or another topic or another development, I'm happy to do one of these again. Thursday nights work really well for me. So maybe it'll be like a Thursday night thing. We'll talk about SGC if there's news to talk, or this whole. Well, Drew, you'll be able to catch up. Absolutely, guys. Really happy to host. It was really fun. I had a great time. But I will end it. Thank you for watching, for those who did, and for participating. Been really fun. Great way to spend a night. We'll see if I can accommodate this one. See you guys.